Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Sister Sister, a podcast for spiritual baddies. We're your hosts, El and Maya, and today's episode is
All about Hermeticism. So, I'm very excited about this episode because this is something that I've had a lot of interest in. So, we're just going to get right into it because it's a lot of information. So, what is Hermeticism? According to Britannica, Hermeticism is a religious and philosophical tradition based on the writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, a legendary figure believed to be the Egyptian god Thoth. These works, written in Greek and Latin between the 1st and 3rd centuries AD, blend Eastern religious ideas with Greek philosophies like Platonism and Stoicism. Hermetic writings are divided into popular and learned categories. Popular Hermeticism focuses on occult sciences such as astrology and alchemy, while learned Hermeticism delves into theology and philosophy. The core belief is that the cosmos is a unified whole with all parts interconnected. Hermeticism aims for the spiritual transformation of individuals through divine knowledge, similar to Gnosticism. This tradition significantly influenced medieval Arab and Western thought, particularly during the Renaissance period.
who is Hermes Trismegistus? According to Britannica, he is, or the Greek name applied to the Greek god Thoth, as the I can't even talk. Let me redo that. According to Britannica, I'm just gonna say Hermes, the Greek name applied to the Egyptian god Thoth, as the reputed author or source of the Hermetic writings, works of revelation on occult subjects like theology. Thoth was the scribe of the gods, the inventor of writing, and the patron of all the arts dependent on writing, including medicine, astronomy, and magic. At least as early as Herodotus, Greeks had identified him with their god Hermes, and by the 3rd century BCE, that identification was official. On the Rosetta Stone, 196 BCE, Hermes the Great is evidently Thoth. The epithet Trismegistus, Greek for thrice greatest, occurs only rarely outside Hermetic texts. It represents a development from the Egyptian AA, great great, that is greatest, which is found as the epithet of Thoth in late hieroglyphics. The writings ascribed to Hermes Thoth fall into two main classes. Popular Hermeticism dealt with astrology and the other occult sciences. Learned Hermeticism concerned itself with theology and philosophy.
What makes Hermeticism different from other belief systems? The real fun thing about this is the fact that we are talking not only about Greek mythology, but also Egyptian mythology and its intersection. So, defining part of the nature and history of Hermeticism is its religious syncretism. Syncretism is defined as the combination of different forms of belief or practice, which is exemplified in how the figure of Hermes Trismegistus came to be from the two disparate came to be from the two disparate gods of the Greek Hermes and the Egyptian Thoth. In addition to this, though, Hermeticism is a syncretic tradition in general, drawing from many ancient sources. Luther H. Martin notes in his book, which this is coming from a academic article from Oregon State. So we have that cited, and then in that article, this quote is cited from the book. The Hermetic texts are often cited as examples of the extent of late Hellenistic syncretism, for they exhibit traits of magic, astrology, alchemy, Platonism, and Stoicism, and the mysteries, as well as Judaism and Gnostic thought. Such influences are not arbitrary borrowings, but express systemic assumptions of the late Hellenistic age generally. So that is from the academic analysis. Now we're going to get to talk about the history, which is so fun. So fun.
Very long. Information also provided from Britannica. From the Renaissance until the end of the 19th century, little attention was paid to the popular Hermetic literature. More recent study has shown that its development preceded that of the learned Hermeticism, and that it reflects ideas and beliefs that were widely held in the early Roman Empire, and are therefore significant for the religious and intellectual history of the time. In the Hellenistic age, it was chiefly works on astrology which were ascribed to Hermes. To these were later added tre- treatises on medicine, alchemy, and magic. The concept which underlies astrology that the cosmos constitutes a unity and that all parts of it are interdependent, is basic also to the other pseudosciences. To make this principle effective in practice in Hermetic science, unlike Aristotelianism, was intensely utilitarian. Utilitarian. Big words, guys, big words. It was necessary to know the laws of sympathy and antipathy by which the parts of the universe were related. Since these assumed affinities did not in fact exist and hence cannot be discovered by ordinary scientific methods, recourse was had to divine revelation. There was a growing distrust of traditional Greek rationalism and a breaking down of the distinction between science and religion. Hermes' thought was but one, if perhaps the most important, of the gods and prophets, chiefly of Middle Eastern origin, to whom knowledge seekers turned for divinely revealed wisdom.
So the theological writings are represented chiefly by the 17 treatises of the Corpus Hermeticum, by extensive fragments in Stobaeus, and by a Latin translation of the Asclepius, preserved among the works of Apuleius. These date probably from the first 3 centuries CE. All are marked by a sincere piety of a mystical type, but there is no single doctrine which is consistently set forth, and it is unlikely there was any well-defined Hermetic community or church. Though the setting is Egyptian, the philosophy, like the language, is Greek. Hermeticism was extensively cultivated by the Arabs, and through them it reached and influenced such men as Albertus Magnus in the West. There are frequent allusions to Hermes Trismegistus in late medieval and Renaissance literature. Now, for the next portion of history, we have the banishment and return of Hermeticism thanks to Christianity. We love
So
that.
let's get right into it. According to the Hermetic Fellowship website, when Christianity was adopted as the official state religion of the Roman Empire, Hermeticism was suppressed along with the whole vast range of non-Christian religions, cults, sects, and schools that had flourished in the empire, as well as the many forms of Christianity now perceived as competitors with the wealthy and powerful Church of Rome. My nose is so itchy, it needs to really not right now. Yet, against all odds, some few of the Hermetic books dealing with philosophy, mysticism, and particularly those dealing with alchemy were preserved through the long Middle Ages by scholars and collectors in Greek Byzantium. The group of texts now known as the Corpus Hermeticum finally returned to the Latin West during the Italian Renaissance, when the Florentine philosopher Prince Cosimo de' Medici obtained a set of manuscripts from one of his agents in the Greek East and commissioned the scholar, priest, musician, and philosopher Marsilio Ficino to translate the corpus into Latin.
Yet these were, after all, pagan texts. How was it that these pagan scriptures could be even possibly acceptable in the very Christian world of the Rinascimento Italy, which is just the Renaissance period? The solution was in the form of a fortuitous mistake 2 centuries before the advent of European textual criticism. Ficino and the other Renaissance philosophers, magicians, and artists who studied the Hermetic texts accepted the largely legendary pseudo-historical milieu claimed for themselves by the Hermetica, much as biblical scholars for centuries uncritically accepted late pseudo-diagraphic text as ancient history, and believed that the Hermetic texts were far more ancient than they actually were. Ficino therefore believed that Hermetic philosophy was an ancient forerunner of Christianity rather than its contemporary. So, when the Hermetic text showed influence from Jewish or Christian myth, this was understood not as the syncretism of a late age, but as the prophetic prefiguring of an earlier one. As such, the Hermetica could be viewed as predicting the supposed triumph of Christianity and their obvious paganism forgiven, just as the Hebrew Old Testament could justifiably, in spite of its Judaism, be studied by Christians for its messianic prophecies, all of course applied to Jesus by the church. Because of this mistaken assumption of prophetic antiquity, conjoined with the self-proclaimed Orphic Ficino's simultaneous reinterpretation of magic in a much brighter and less controversial form than that of the medieval period, which itself contained many clandestinely preserved elements of Hermeticism, the new figure of the Hermetic Renaissance, Magnus, entered the cultural consciousness of the era. Ficino's natural magic moved out of the shadows of the grimoires and once more into the light of the general philosophical and theological consideration. A student at Ficino's Florentine Platonic Academy, the brilliant and daring infant terrible Count Giovanni Pico della Mirandola added the crucial catalytic element of the Jewish Kabbalah to the new pagan Christian Hermetic amalgam and transformed Hermeticism forever. It is here that Hermeticism was born of ancient Hermeticism, once more entering in a syncretic union, this time with Christianity, Renaissance neoclassicism and humanism, natural magic, and Kabbalah. The resulting vigorous Hermetic influence spreading out from the court of the Medicus and the Academy of Ficino clearly served as one of the most potent inspirations for the spiritual, artistic, and scientific renewal of the Renaissance. Now we can talk about what Hermeticism is actually about in the principles, which will be a lot less complicated than all of that.
Yes, and please note that these principles can be found from a number of sources, as many of our explanations come from multiple sources to give you the best in-depth understanding. A lot of the information comes from astrologer Salim Rana. So, the first principle is mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. Through the mystical principle of mentalism, we learn that our world is a projection, a mental masterpiece painted by the power of thought. Our experiences, interactions, joys, and sorrows reflect the vivid workings of our human minds within an all inclusive universal mind. It is a physical scenario where beliefs manifest. In other words, existence is our blank canvas, and we, the artists, etch its features with each idea and intention. Once aware of his knowledge, we must embrace responsibility. Our thoughts shape our inner realm and ripple outward to influence our world. Approach life with optimism. Having a clear idea and intention is essential for evolutionary progress. When we embrace this hidden knowledge, we take responsibility for our thoughts and their impact on our inner world and the world around us. Our thoughts have a ripple effect that can influence all we perceive. This principle is a double-edged sword unveiled by Mentalism's principle. It bestows upon us the power to author our reality through focused thought. Yet it demands mindfulness. Careless ideas manifest as smears upon the canvas. Application of the principle. Consider the thought that is most influencing your mood right now. When we recognize how much our thoughts manifest every day, whether internally as a physiological or emotional state, or externally as the things we do or places we go, we see that we can control our mind, we control our lives. We can get better at this through spiritual practices such as meditation, which will help us train the mind.
And I don't know about you, but that principle sounds a whole lot like manifestation. Just saying.
Clock it.
So, the second principle is the principle of correspondence. This is as above, so below, as below, so above. I'm sure y'all have heard that one before if you have spent any time in occult spaces. As above, so below, say the Hermetic sages when revealing the subtle interplay between the diverse planes of reality. Above, ethereal realms unfurl beyond physical sight, realms of spirit, energy, and consciousness. Like mist-shrouded mountains, they loom over reality, influencing all below in silent conspiracy. Those who seek the summit to the astral worlds and beyond establish meditation, prayer, and shamanic flight practices. These rituals promise to take them to lofty planes. Here dwell forces govern our world, the consciousness and the unconscious mind, and the higher powers of divinity. When you tune into these inner realms to hear creation's subtle melody reverberating with oneness, insights flow like rushing waters, flooding your awareness with prescience. Below the dense earthly plane anchors us in the tangible, the measured, seen, and touched. Its laws bind us in causality as we plumb the world of atoms in the void. Particles relate to particles, organisms to organisms, all interconnected in a delicate balance. So, an application of this principle, applying this law, is all about understanding your connection to the world around you and how you're showing up for yourself and the universe through your thoughts and subsequently your actions. When we have a firm grasp on how we're interacting with life and how it's affecting us, we can recognize and break patterns, live in alignment with our highest good, and feel harmonious with everything there is. I don't know why I struggled so much with just normal words.
The next principle is of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. A symphony of vibration resounds through the cosmos, permeating all that is. All things hum with invisible motion. To apprehend this cosmic concerto is to recognize the impermanence of the world of form and realize that everything is in flux. Each entity vibrates in singular tune within the sea of rhythms, sending ripples through the universe. Synchronicity highlights significant coincidences that may have deeper meanings. You may feel attuned to the subtle melody of creation resonating within you. Constant movement is everywhere. Even in the most solid mountain or the deepest cave, a frenzy of motion reigns at the quantum scales, subatomic particles dancing in ceaseless choreography. Even light's waves undulate across the curved canvas of space and time, distorting the cosmic fabric. Our bodies, too, pulse with cellular rhythms, alive with the ebb and flow of ions, hormones, and neurotransmitters. To sense these inner tides is to know one's place within nature's grand orchestrate. Within nature's grand orchestration. How to apply this principle. This will look different for everyone, but to apply this third principle, you want to not only do things, but think thoughts that allow you to be in a state of ease, where your body is vibrating at a more positive level. Applying the first two principles can help you start to do this. You might be noticing all of these principles are deeply interwoven, and with this principle, we acknowledge that we have the power to control our vibration rather than our vibration controlling us.
All right, the fourth principle is the principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. As seen through the lens of perception, opposites shape reality. Here, light opposes dark, good dances with evil, and hot confronts cold. Conceptual counterpoints constructing meaning. We must consider both sides of an issue to understand the truth more deeply. Opposing opposing viewpoints reveal both similarities and differences. Opposites differ merely by degrees along a common axis. Darkness dims light, evil distorts good. One cannot stand without the other. Complementary opposites reveal existence's intrinsic unity. By dividing and naming, we map the mind's landscape, locating our place amidst the relativity of space-time. Opposites, opposites join along reality's Mobius strip, chase one end and find it twisted into its counterpart. Extremes kiss, paradoxes resolve. Beyond simplistic dichotomies, a nuanced world emerges. Truths have two sides, each revealing facets of a greater whole. With open minds, outmoded assumptions drop away, shedding our inner light's sharper rays. We enter the still point between extremes by quieting judgment's ceaseless chatter. Life's rhythms harmonize in singular motion, chaos crystallizes into meaning. Light and dark merge within the knowing mind. By embracing opposites, we transcend them. Blinders removed, a vibrant wholeness astounds with infinite diversity, difference dissolved in unity's ocean. All opposites are currents within the cosmic mind, streaming eternal wisdom to those who notice and listen. How to apply this principle. Applying the principle of polarity takes a degree of mental stamina and involves shifting the way you look at something, potentially completely on its head. Take the hate you may feel for someone. Is there any way you can shift it to feelings of love? For example, anytime a lower vibrational emotion is bringing you down, can you recognize it, feel it, and transmute it to a more positive one?
The principle of rhythm, everything flows out and in, everything has its tide, all things rise and fall, the pendulum swings, manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. To everything there is a season, rise and fall, growth and decay. Rhythm governs life and ends the cycle of becoming and fading. All that ascends must descend. Atoms and empires alike obey this cosmic cadence. The ceaseless energy flux underpins this eternal dance, pulsing through the forms. Its currents animate life's ebb and flow, granting its sacred dynamism. To sail along these tides is to grasp life essentials. To sail along these tides is to grasp life's essential movement. Change is the only thing that persists. Continual transformation sculpts the universe, and permanence reigns. By flowing with the change's currents, we transcend clinging to transient forms. Equanimity emerges from understanding life's fluid nature. Nature's rhythm manifests through the pendulum swing. Extremes inevitably give way to their opposites in cyclic balance. Action and reaction wed. In between lives equilibrium. In essence, then the cosmos self correct, ever striving towards harmony. upset the delicate balance, and nature redirects you, restoring order. We must carefully tend to life's garden, aligning with her measured pace. See how the cycles turn. Striving toward harmony requires maintaining a delicate balance. Upsetting this balance can lead to complications. Trust in the rhythm, and life reveals her perfection. How to apply this principle. Know that nothing lasts forever and things are ever changing. As you get deeper into working with this law, you'll be able to work with your own emotional states to avoid a dramatic pendulum swing of feelings. It's thought that eventually the master will be able to completely transcend duality, but if you're just getting started, try becoming more aware of your emotional state and using polarity and rhythm to start getting more comfortable with the natural fluxes of your life.
The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Life often seems full of random events, both good and bad. They are due to chance, luck, or fate. But there are consistent laws governing but there are consistent laws governing the universe. Understanding the laws cause and effect can help us gain more control and intentionally shape our lives. The basic principle is that every action has an equal reaction. In other words, our thoughts, beliefs, and actions will produce corresponding results, essentially the law of karma. We reap what we sow. Knowing about the law of cause and effect, we can make wiser choices to manifest our desired reality. We aren't helpless pawns of fate, but active creators of our destiny. We can live more purposefully when we recognize our mental power in shaping outcomes. So, how can you apply this principle? When something doesn't go as planned or you find yourself unhappy, ask yourself, what was the cause? Many times we find ourselves reacting to the world around us, trapped in a back and forth, reacting to our circumstances rather than forging our own path. When we take action to get the effect we want, we move from feeling like a victim to feeling empowered.
Last but not least, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. The mystic precepts of Hermeticism illuminate existence in hidden contours, whispering long buried secrets that unveil life's occult mysteries. Among these enigmatic principles rests the metaphysical truth of gender, a profound revelation for any seeker journeying towards self realization. Gender, according to Hermetic thought, infuses all the planes as animating masculine and feminine life forces, not confined to the biological sex. These primordial energies weave through the fabric of reality, symbiotic partners in creation's grand endeavor. By unveiling their workings, we can harmonize their powers within. First, we must comprehend the essence of masculine and feminine archetypes. The masculine embodies will, focus, and strength, the relentless drive toward progress and control. Its feminine companion is the realm of intuition, creativity, and nurturing, the conduit to imagination's bounty. Too often, rigid cultural roles disrupt these energies, limiting wholeness, but Hermeticism beckons us to integration, blending the steadfast blending the steadfastness of masculine with the fluidity of feminine for balance. In this union of complements, human potential unfolds. By bringing these principles into daily life, we can unlock the inner gifts. Logic mingles with empathy and creates wisdom. Assertiveness tempers with nurturing. Assertiveness tempers nurturing, birthing compassionate strength. By embracing the spectrum within, we transcend false divisions. This integration likewise enriches relationships, harmonizing yin and yang. Here, genuine communication flows and barriers dissolve in mutual understanding. Partners interweave perspectives, accomplishing together what neither could do alone. How to apply this principle? Accept all the parts of yourself and understand that balance is the key for self mastery. Buddha called this the middle way, and it's all about the balance of masculine and feminine, of heavenly and earthbound, and of the mind, body, and spirit. When we can achieve this balance within ourselves, we're well equipped to harness all the principles and use them in our lives for good.
So we do have some further reading in case you guys are interested. We have the Hermetica, The Lost Wisdom of the Pharaohs by Timothy Frecky and Peter Gandy. We have The Quest for Hermes Trismegistus from Ancient Egypt to the Modern World by Gary Lackman. The Secret History of Hermes Trismegistus, Hermeticism from Ancient to Modern Times by Florian Ebling. Giordano Bruno and the Hermetic Tradition by Francis Yates, and Eros and Magic in the Renaissance by, I believe that's Ian P. Poliano. So, final thoughts. How do you feel about all of them, Maya?
Other than reading lots of words, I feel like it ties back to a lot of the stuff we've already talked about in previous episodes. A lot of the themes like feminism and masculinity and the first principle kind of touching on manifestation, and they just all tied to something we've previously discussed.
I think it's interesting the intersections with this specifically between the ideas of like spirituality and paganism and then like the laws of science, like Newton's laws. I have done reading on Hermeticism in the past. I actually have a book on it, and I found it really fascinating, which I think that probably a lot of our listeners will as well, just because it, has like a very interesting relationship with different portions of religion and also science, where it's not like one size fits all kind of shoe, which is what I feel like a lot of people who practice a specific religion feel like it's their way or the highway, whereas this is like actually taking ideas from a lot of different places and kind of letting them meld together into one belief system.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's really interesting how this has pulled from other religious beliefs as well as ways of living that are pretty secular. Now, let's get right into tarot time.
Great. We have the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords is about fighting a losing battle, feeling like you can't quite get past it. It very much so is representative of like there's been a big kind of like explosion, whether that's a mental battle, an emotional battle, or a physical battle, butting heads with people, just really overall feeling kind of stressed out about your current circumstances. I wish I could see if this relates to the astrology forecast, but I can't currently. But yeah, this card very much so is all about like feeling like you're at war with yourself and with others, and you're kind of going through a time of drastic change because of argumentative behavior.
Don't be fighting people unless they're mean to you. That's a different story. Anyway, now let's jump into Astrology Almanac. All right. Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Sister Sister, a podcast for spiritual baddies, plural. It's kind of hard to believe that we're almost already halfway into season 6, but luckily for you guys, there's way more to come. We're not over anytime soon. Can't wait to spend the rest of the summer with you guys. So be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Engage with us on socials and follow us if you haven't already, because why haven't you? Real question. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.